Before we start this video, please remember this is meant for educational purposes, and if you find value in this video, please consider subscribing. It helps out a lot. Because if the channel is bigger, the more power I have to expose these predators. Hello, my name is Brandy Angel. Before I start, do not harass anyone mentioned in this video. This is just a cover of things that has happened. Do not attack or dox anyone mentioned. I do not support that. The video contains talks of CP, child porn, fetishes, abuse, non-consensually sex, explicit talk, and even grooming. If you feel uncomfortable, please leave the video and watch another time. It doesn't hurt to know your limit. AnimatedJames was a name that you might have never heard. James, who is a YouTuber who had over 989k subs at the time, was an animation channel that was well known for this animation series called C Students. Why has he disappeared off the face of the internet? James, who was born in 1994, which makes him 28 in 2022, was a creator of is an American artist, former songwriter, writer, actor, director, animator, and former YouTuber. He is the creator of C Students and the voice of August, Drew, and Ms. Delight. He also created the web series, the webcomic called Off Saving the World. James became very famous for making animations on Newgrounds, which were Sonic the Hedgehog animations crossovers to MLP. That gained massive millions of views that made lots of ad revenue.
James had previously collaborated with a voice actress named Vanna Mellon to produce a pony version of an Eminem song. They planned to film a whole music video for the track at TrotCon, where James would appear cross-dressing in a pink wig and hat. However, during filming, one of the actors was instructed to lightly hit James as a joke. The actor severely miscalculated their strength and punched him so hard that James began bleeding. He was quickly transported to the hospital, where a procedure had to be done involving stitches. The video was subsequently canceled, as he ranted about the ordeal in an update video. However, he still viewed the overall experience fondly, and so, when approached to host panels at 3 separate conventions the next year, he agreed. Unfortunately, these later trips would reveal themselves to be far less rewarding. In the summer of 2015, James attended BronyCon, where he made appearances at several different panels. The first was a group discussion about animation, which took place on August 7th. It went pretty smoothly. The next day, James found himself waiting in line for another guest lecture. There, he was approached by a fan with a simple request to deface him with a permanent marker. Not thinking much of the con shenanigans, he agreed. But midway through the scribbling, James was interrupted by an onlooker who began chastising him for health concerns. The clip was immediately uploaded to YouTube under the title AnimatedJames Chewed Out by SJW. Given that calling poison control for a Sharpie is pretty ridiculous, people were on his side, but James still felt the need to defend himself, writing, "I get extremely angry when I'm blamed and scolded for something that's not my fault. It's a good thing I've never gotten accused by the police or anything, otherwise you'd never see me again. Either way, feel free to call me crazy and overreacting if you want. Whatever makes you feel superior." Placed in an uncomfortable position, the incident led James to
Okay, so for my original script, I thought for some reason James was being dramatic, but the more I thought about it now and my bias changed. So we will continue to talk. Now you might think, oh, this is basic drama. Well, no. No, it's not. Because if you Google AnimatedJames right now, what the results show are disturbing. So I am gonna give you a disclaimer. If you don't like to hear talks about grooming, abuse, CP, child porn, or fetish, please leave right now or skip to this timestamp. On May 10, 2014 on 4chan was uploaded by private or anonymous users called Sonic Girls. Which you might think, okay, there is nothing wrong with that. Well, can you look at that art style and how familiar it looks? Now this webcomic was disgusting, involving minors in the comics who farted on each other for their own pleasure. It was absolutely disgusting. Which Amy rose to be 12, Cream being 6 years old. Now you might be confused thinking, this looks like James' art style. Yeah, because it was. Now I'm gonna tell you that it gets worse from here. I am not even ducking capping. The fact that this adult made it very clear at the time what his intent was. By the way, James was around 19 or 20 years old, keep that in mind. He just finished high school. So the comic starts with Rouge, who is crapping in a balloon. And for those who won't believe that's not James's art style, here's proof. Now why would he go under a different name? I wonder why. This screenshot proves it all. So these guys asked James if this was him and James denied it, lying. Then the whole website was deleted. By the way, why would James change his name and deny it? Then the whole website gets taken down. Also, if you haven't heard of Ma Bucket, a Roblox predator who was exposed, went under lots of names, which is a common thing predators do. I am not saying James is a predator due to there being info that he is a pedo. I think he didn't make it clear that what he did was bad due to the character being underage. Then he makes his post on his blog, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so for all to know, he got exposed. AnimatedJames completely gaslights the whole thing after being exposed, with him even stated, "All the energy I put into wanting to kill myself, I'm putting into finishing my projects faster with more effort." By the way, he said this a day after he was exposed for the content or the comic he made. Also, this is a form of gaslighting. Which gaslighting forms under manipulation. Which an abuser misleads the target, treating them with false narrative and making questions on judgments and reality. In one sentence, that was what James was doing. In the short term, what I mean was, because James was called out for this disgusting comic, he tried using suicide to make it feel like he was being pressured. By the way, let's make it clear that he has made a comic of a blog that had fetish art of minors. Use suicide as a way to gaslight his fans. Also, by the way, many of the characters he drew were underaged. Then James says this. I am not going to read the full thing. James says, "Part of the reason I have a fart fetish is because of my best friend Heather. We met in 9th grade and we're still friends. One day while we were hanging out, I was lying right next to her, and you guys could read the rest. I am not reading this. And this is because how he is justifying what he did. And then when you read this, what the fuck? No, like what? James, because you had a friend fart on you. This gives you the right to draw underage minors in adult themes. And by these, you can't justify what he has done. A thread that exposes him points out how nasty he is on the thread. Now here is where grooming goes. So apparently there was a girl James talked to, and just like that they were friends. But then both had feelings for each other. The problem was that because he was 22, she was 17. That's a 5-year age gap. And that isn't pedophilia. But then, remember, He himself has fetishes of minors farting on each other. The drawings of possible images of minors doing sexually acts. And now is dating a 17-year-old. Which people have said he has groomed her. Also he remembered guys he has a fart fetish that he wanks off to, and if he drawing a freaking 6 and 12-year-old. Don't you think this man has CP? Also now there is no proof of him grooming her, so I don't believe he has groomed her. But then, she was turning 17. Meaning, she was 16. Let that rest with you. Then James started to disappear against the face of the earth. Something else happened when another YouTuber made fun of James' fetishes, which why would you do that? Then James made a statement as you can read. Now I stand for James because it is disgusting what these trolls have done. With James stop working on C students. Due to all of this. The fart predator then started to find himself in more drama like drawing on this. On August cover 17 he made this animation. This whole animation would point out to sexualize minors in erotic ways. With Splatoon. Also for someone who was being called a pedo, that was not a good look. Also, he was exposed for drawing sexuality erotic art of the Steven universe. No, please don't go and say because it was his fetish that made him be called a pedo. And those were just drawings. Drawing of minors. Google him right now. And look what is put of him. James starts to put some depressing ass updates. He's saying how he was no longer inspired to make videos. In this screenshot James, I don't understand why you would see why people see you in this way. He didn't even debunk this. But the last video called Creative Types he would upload would get so many views. That rapist, Chris Chan liked it. Yeah, no, the transgender woman who rapped that person. More screenshots and tweets would expose that James would try to make that animation make it to everyone who liked him. Which of course, made the allegations die down. Now, remember guys, please don't hate James. Because I myself believe that anyone can change. And with that James also changed. And even though he committed a felony which people are looking past. With his hypocrisy because people were exposing an artist called Bleedman who drew Lolicon calling him a pedo, but we look past James. Okay, wow. But as I said James changed. Ma Bucket should be on a FBI watch list. Bleedman lives in the Philippines so leave him alone. But then James stopped uploading and discontinued his channel. Which surprisingly he left it open to the public to see. Now what has happened is that due to the screenshots the voice actor of Penny one character who talked in the screenshots, which makes you feel so stupid if you support this guy. No, really. Read the goddamn screenshots. James and I had many Skype conversations, both audio and message, where he kept trying to get me to date him or come meet him, but I was still 17. Guys, what? The duck. In a long story, he tries to manipulate this 17-year-old to date and meets up. Keep in mind he was 22. He's a predator guys. He tried meeting up with a 17-year-old. Harassing her. Into meeting up. And remember the show he was making was explicit too. Now let's take that and think of his intention. Soon James leaves the face of the internet and that what happens. James drew sexually material of underage characters. Lied about the ordeal. Tricked his fans in believing he would stop drawing an underage character in sexual positions. Try meeting up with a 17-year-old. Grooming a 17-year-old into dating him. The problem with this is that, it wasn't the drawings no. It was the fact he tried grooming the girl into dating him. While drawing young children into sexual ways. They're a difference from liking XXX of young teen, that's a genre. versus a 10-year-old. Now after that another YouTube channel blew up with people talking about this another YouTuber who possible could be James due to James when he went under Andy Sonic depicted himself as white. Also the ways the eyes and he draw hands are like James, and also he talks as he been on the platform from sometimes now. He also made some fandom songs for some music video. They have similarity, but of course this YouTuber named Neurotic which people believe is James also quit YouTube. He claims that he made some friends who have doxed other people now I don't know how much proof that's him. Also Neurotic has a Newgrounds account but yeah. Now for the overview. I believe we have a lot of proof that in fact James was a predator. But then that was about 6 years ago. James did some f-up things. But as I believe trying to meet up if a 17-year-old was fricked up. You can't defend that. James was a talented person. The fart fetish is what he posted. Don't hate on James for that. James also need to get the help he needs. He was really suicidal. And it disgusts me that people make fun of suicide. If James ever comes back I'm going to say that I don't care if you doesn't want to do animations or anything. Just I hope he is doing okay. I am not here to tell you to hate James but to make it clear that stuff he did needs to be talked about. Treads can even provide stuff for you that's about it.